Hey guys, so it is January 12th right now, and I thought it would be a good time to give you an update on what's going on. So I've hesitated a bit to post this because I really wanted to clarify my goals, and with it being a new year, I took the time to really think through what I want to accomplish and what my goals are in alignment with my values. I think for me, sometimes with this sport, it's easy to get caught up in what should I do? What would look good? What is the trend right now? Like, what are other people posting? Is it better to lay low and kind of follow your process and then show up when you're ready? Or is it better to put it out there and let people know what's going on, let them know what the struggle is? And as much as I like just flying under the radar and sticking to my plan, I think that there's a lot of value in sharing what's going on and what I've learned through the process and what I'm changing and why. I think for me, shifting my goals can be challenging from an image standpoint when you tell people what you want to accomplish. And then if you decide to change those goals, it can look inconsistent. And I never want to be someone who isn't sticking to what I set out to do. But I have shifted my goals a bit, and I think that it's important to share it. And hopefully, you'll see it as beneficial, just kind of knowing what can come up in this sport and why it might be a good idea to shift goals. And if you can relate to any part of this, I'd love to talk to you about it. And if you're having trouble setting goals for yourself, that's definitely something that I have spent a lot of time learning how to do. And I think that having been in the sport for a bit, you kind of learn what the implications of your goals truly are. So with that, maybe a little bit vague overview, I'll give you some details as to what's been going on with me. So recap. In the summer last year, really starting last spring, I started prep, and I was going to compete in Chicago Pro at the end of July of 2021. And I prepped up until 6 weeks out. I was responding well and looking pretty good, I think. Definitely could add a little bit of tissue, but conditioning was in a good spot. And I had a lot of life changes. And I do want to do another video going over the life changes, and that'll be my next true update. But as of right now, for bodybuilding changes, I pulled out of prep and made that call. And Luke and I filmed a podcast on that, and I'd love to talk more about that if you have questions. But I pulled out of prep, and it was definitely the decision I needed to make. And then I started working with Luke at that point, and I'm just going to kind of recap what things have been happening since then. So at the beginning of July, my weight was 143. Conditioning was in a good spot. I felt pretty decent since I was still like 6 weeks out. I wasn't really running to the ground. I wasn't having to push cardio very hard, to be honest. And I didn't get to that dieted point where I was super fatigued. So we got to start growing at a very lean point, but without the high fatigue from having finished a complete prep, which put me in a really good spot. At the beginning of August, I had labs drawn, and that's always really important. As you come out of prep, make sure that you have labs within like 6 to 8 weeks of prep, kind of see where everything is, especially as you transition into off season. You want to make sure you address any health issues that come up and make sure hormones are in a good spot. Unfortunately, hormones were not in a good spot. My test was at 8, which is pretty low. That is below the reference range, so definitely below what we would want it to be ideally for bodybuilding progress, let alone just general well-being. So with tests being that low, I started TRT, testosterone replacement, at 10 milligrams a week. So pretty standard dose there. I had tried 20 a week in the past when my test was low, and it was too high for me. I didn't feel good on it. It made me very emotional. My estrogen went up quite a bit from that as well. So this time I wanted to take a more moderate approach, started with 10 milligrams a week. So I ran that for a month from the end of August to the end of September. At the end of September, I got labs again to kind of see where things were. Whenever you add hormone replacement, it's really important that you follow up with more labs to see where the actual replacement is putting your numbers to make sure it's a good dose for you. My test was at 210, so I hyper responded. It was quite high, definitely much higher than we would want it to be for females. So we pulled the test out completely. After all, it was really high. Although I did need the TRT, we just needed to get the test levels back down to a good range. So remove the test completely. I actually felt a lot better after removing this. And then mid October, we had to decide, what do we do from here? Because it's okay to grow with food. Ideally, that's what we would want. But when we're looking at an off season from a bodybuilding standpoint and wanting to amass as much tissue as possible, especially me wanting to move from figure to physique, which is a large difference for me in accruing muscle tissue, it's going to be important to be supplemented as needed, which is just kind of the nature of the sport. So we discussed this and decided maybe using a different anabolic would be beneficial. So I added in Masteron, and I stayed at a lower dose. In the past, I'd used 100 a week, so we ran 80 a week just to see how that felt. I started that at the beginning of November. At the end of November, I was really feeling that I was having side effects from this. I was noticing my voice was changing, and this is something that I'd experienced in the past. It's something I get a lot of questions on, and I hear a lot of girls very hesitant about using anabolics because of it, and I think rightly so. What you tend to notice first is that your voice will start getting a little crackly and potentially start breaking when you try to speak loudly or hit a higher octave. You'll notice pretty quickly if you try to sing, but start to notice your voice breaking. So I started to feel that again, and I had to decide if that was something that I was willing to do, willing to put up with, if that was a necessary side effect of what I was trying to achieve. And I really feel that it was not. I have dealt with voice changes in the past. My voice has changed over time with the use of anabolics, which is an unfortunate side effect and something that I'll just have to live with, as all of us kind of live with the changes that we make to our bodies when we do decide to take anabolics. But I decided that it wasn't something that I want to continue to struggle with. I want to be able to grow and perform and limit whatever I need to use for supplementation to limit the side effects. As I get a little bit older, you start to think about things like having kids or what the implications are for your lab work if you continue to take these things long term. And so I really consider the use of them very seriously. And I think it's really important that you consider what side effects you're willing to deal with. And you know your line. And this was a point when I had to decide what my line was going to be, what I was willing to put up with, and what would be a nope, like I'm going to remove this compound because it's just not worth the side effects to me. So at the end of November, I decided, let's pull it out and just spend some time trying to address some issues that had come up. I was having a lot of digestive issues, feeling very bloated, feeling pretty fatigued most of the time. Training was progressing up until a point, and then I kind of hit a wall with it, and it just felt like I had a lot of just general issues come up. And some of it was just creating more awareness around those things, but some of it was probably the cumulative effect of not having addressed some of these issues earlier on. So I spent most of the end of November and then leading up to the end of December just enjoying eating a lot of food, fixing digestion by reducing artificial sweeteners, reducing my caffeine intake, just cleaning up my diet, like not leaning really on a lot of like sweetened and caffeinated drinks. Trying not to use a lot of things like stevia and stuff in my oats and coffee, and just cleaning things up and creating some more awareness around diet. making sure sleep was in a good spot, setting a really good routine around sleep, setting a routine for my day, what my day would look like in terms of my mornings, having a morning walk and routine where I don't have my phone, just really structuring like a general healthy lifestyle that would support my goals, not only as a bodybuilder, but as a person so that I could function more effectively. Coaching is very important to me as well. So being able to just function optimally from a brain health standpoint is really important. And I felt like taking this month to just focus on improving as a person really set me up well to continue into this phase that I'm moving into now. At the end of December, I had labs drawn again. So at this point, I had been off the test for a couple of months. I had been off the Masteron for over a month. And I just kind of wanted to see where things were as we moved into the new year, get an idea of where my labs were and if we needed to address any issues at this point. So the end of December, running that lab work, my test was back down to 9, which again is low. So Luke and I discussed what we needed to do here. Besides my test being low again, my liver enzymes were pretty high, over 90 for both, and we definitely want to see those lower. Even when I had tested them in the past, they had never been over like 50 or 60, so seeing them that high was concerning to me. Cholesterol is pretty high at 238. I've always dealt with high cholesterol, so unfortunately it's something I kind of have to just deal with and monitor, but I am supplementing with some extra fish oil, 10 grams a day actually. I'm also doubling up my liver HD from HD Muscle. I had stopped taking that for a while, so now I'm back on track with it and doubled up the dose, and then I'm going to recheck labs again at the end of the month to see where all of those levels are and if I saw any improvement. So I'll be excited to share that with you and give you an idea of what works and what doesn't. So besides the double liver HD and the 10 grams of fish oil a day, I have also added in TRT again, but this time at half the dose of before. So before I was on 10 milligrams a day, and that took me up to a astounding 210. I am doing 5 milligrams a week, and we will see how that goes. So again, I'll be testing all of that at the end of the month. I'll update you on what's going on with that. And I'm excited to just be a little bit more transparent and share my journey. And maybe it'll be helpful for you as you embrace your own goals and pursue your goals, whether that's for lifestyle or bodybuilding to step on the stage one day. I think it's really important that we as females especially put this information out there and discuss it, because there's a lot of misinformation, and I find that I have a lot of girls come to me as a coach asking, how they go about lab work. No one has been able to help them with their hormones, or if they have done PEDs in the past and they're left with their hormones skewed, they don't know where to go from there. So hopefully seeing a little bit of insight into my plan and what I'm dealing with, having been in this sport for a few years now, it'll give you some insight into how to address your own concerns and move forward optimally. So with that, I think it's important to also talk about goals. My goal when I dropped out of prep was to compete in women's physique. And I started growing, and weight is up from 143 to 158 now. So it's a good amount, up about 15 pounds in the last 6 months, which is a pretty good rate of gain. And I definitely could still use a little bit more tissue. So I'm excited to continue growing. That said, with the considerations regarding my unwillingness to push PEDs super high or even moderate, considering I wasn't taking too high of a dose there, I have to think about what I'm willing to commit to. And I talked to Luke about this, and it was challenging because I don't want to ever give up on a goal. But I had to look at the whole picture as to what I want to accomplish as a person, as a coach, as a bodybuilder, eventually, hopefully as a parent, things like that. And when I look at the big picture, I realize what's worth it. And truly, I love the figure class. I love the look, and I feel that it's actually grown a lot. The girls are getting bigger in that class as well, and I have quite a bit of room to grow within figure. So I've decided that I'm going to stick with figure. Figure is where I got my pro card. It is where my love for bodybuilding started, and I have some more room to grow into it. So I'm really excited to just kind of reframe what that looks like, still take it as a huge challenge to come and actually be competitive on a pro stage, which is something I haven't done before. And just take this next year to grow in order to show up in spring of 2023 as a pro figure competitor. So my goals have shifted, and I'm excited to share it with you guys and excited to share the journey and everything that I have to address between now and then, and hopefully the process of prep following that. So that is the plan for now. I really appreciate you guys sticking with me through the changes and just supporting me. I was so nervous when I pulled out that I would receive a lot of criticism. And what I realized is you just see the people who have been there for you all along, and those who may not have connected with you previously, but who really show up to show support when you stay true to who you are. So it's been really cool to receive that amount of support and love, and hear a lot of other people who say, hey, me too. Like I struggled during prep and I had to make the decision to pull out, or I'm in that situation now, or I'm not sure what my goals should be, or I don't know what I'm willing to sacrifice to use PEDs, all the things. So it's great to just open up this conversation and get so much feedback of people who have benefited from hearing about my journey and being able to then share their own journey. So I'd love to talk to you guys more about this. I'll be sharing a second video with more of a life update, just to give you the full picture of vulnerability here. And if you have any questions, comments, or anything that you'd like to see, definitely put that down below. Reach out to me. You can always DM me, and I'm happy to get back to you on that. But for now, this is the update. I look forward to sharing the journey ahead with you guys.